How's it going, guys? I'm back with yet another new-to-me motorcycle. This puppy right here is a 1972 Honda CB350K. And I know you're probably thinking, Tom, what is this, motorcycle 3, number 4? This is actually motorcycle number 5. And I know that you're probably judging me for that. However, I'd like to take a moment and ignore your judgment and focus more importantly on how awesome of a bike this is and tell you the story about how I came into it. So, how did I come into this bike? Well, it's about 2021 and my buddy John comes up to me and he says, Tom, I've got the itch to ride again. Let's try and find me a motorcycle that I can use. And I said, great, let's hit up Facebook, Craigslist, let's see if we can find you a bike. We find this one, we go check it out. My buddy is like, hey, if we buy this thing, I haven't ridden in a long time, would you mind riding it back for me? And I said, sure, no problem, that'd be easy enough. So we go check it out, buy it, and I ride it back to his place. Had a little bit of a hiccup on the way home where the shift link lever somehow bent, and anytime I would shift up or down, it would fly way up high or it would fly under the rear pedal. And at one point I'm pulling up to a stop sign in like 3rd gear and I'm revving it as high as I can. I can't force it down into gear. I can't, get into an appropriate engine RPM where I can limp around corners and things like that. So it was a real struggle. We got back to his street and I just feel like I'm gonna burn up the clutch if I try and go up this hill in 4th gear. So let's just kill the thing and we'll push it up this steep driveway. Terrible idea, but we got it done. So now it's like, how do I have it? Well, earlier this year, my buddy lets me know, hey Tom, wife is pregnant and I don't want the distraction of a motorcycle. I think it would just be better if I hand it off to you. And I said, well, I appreciate that, but I think I'm gonna die if I wind up coming home with yet another motorcycle and haven't sold any of the many others that I have. So I said, tell you what, I'll take the bike off your hands and I'll fix it up. I'll make a YouTube video about it and I'll share it with the rest of the world. Then what I'll do is I'll sell it, take out whatever I had to pay for parts for it, and then we'll take that money and we'll put it in a college fund for your kid. We'll let it grow over 18 years and then we can both say to your kid, hey, this bike bought you, I don't know, maybe in 18 years, probably a textbook at the rate things are going. But anyway, that's how I got this bike, and now I think it's time to finally fix it up and get it back on the road for someone else to enjoy. So what all probably needs to happen to this bike? Well, although it was running recently, I can tell you for sure that the battery is dead. Now it might be completely gone, I'm not entirely sure. I hooked up a trickle charger to it, it wasn't taking a charge, but I did have enough power just to run the lights just a little bit for those opening shots that you saw. So I gotta take that out, see what's going on there. I know I'm gonna regret this. I regret this on all things Honda. I'm looking at you, Nighthawk. That the carbs are probably clogged up. This hasn't been run in, I would say, well over a year. So I need to get the old gas out, get the carburetors off, clean them out, hate my life, reinstall them. Hopefully it's not as bad as the Honda Nighthawk. I really hope it's not as bad. And then just an overall cleaning, a check of the wiring, maybe do some polishing and cleaning up of everything, and just get this thing looking like it's brand new. So I'm gonna go ahead and start some of that work. I'll bring you along for the ride. Let's get this thing going again. All right, battery time. Let's see what we got. Oh, a spider. He's alive. Cool. Looks like we've got a selenium rectifier diode or something. Starter solenoid looks like it's seen better days. Overall, it's not terrible, but let's go ahead and get this thing out of here. Oh my. Yeah, that sucker's got almost no fluid in it, so that's step one. Okay, we'll give it a shot adding some water, distilled water, to the battery cells. They are very, very low. All right, got them all filled up. Let's throw it on the charger, see if it does anything. Before I do that, I'll throw these back in. I'll quick check the voltage. But my guess is that this battery might be shot. Luckily they have a couple in stock at Walmart, so I can always go pick one up if I need to. But we will see what I can get out of this little guy. Well, I've got 0 volts, so that is very, very promising. So I'll put it on the charger. I doubt it's going to do anything, but I will plan to go get a new battery for it. So, yay. I think now I can just lift up on the gas tank. Knowing my luck, that won't be the case. Oh, of course. A hose is in the way. I love it when that happens. Good thing the engineers thought through this and made sure to put a hose right where I needed it to not be. Honda, you've done it again. Oh, it's actually just straight up around the frame. I wonder what that hose does. I guess we'll find out. Oop, well, why would they do that? This seems silly. Get that back on there, because I don't know why. What a strange thing to do. Okay, gas tank is off. All right, carb removal time. Who wants to guess that this goes awfully? Holy shit. What? We're done. Well, I gotta get the linkages off, but that's about as easy as you can get. It's interesting, they're independent from each other completely, so I don't have to worry about pipes going between the two or some confusing linkage mechanism, so this might not actually be too bad. All right, so it actually wasn't all that terrible to get these carbs off. It's pretty distinct which one is the left one, which one's the right one, so I'm gonna focus on just one at a time. That way I don't mix anything up. I did have to get some carb cleaner. I did get oil for the bike, but I'm gonna wait on emptying out the oil because you're supposed to heat the bike up and then drain the oil. So we'll be doing an oil change after the bike starts up for the first time. But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and get these carbs apart. Oh gosh. Okay, I guess hopefully no gas in the bowl. We know that's not going to be true, but whatever. Let's get the air filter off so we don't soak that in gasoline. I love this Japanese Phillips screwdriver. Makes life a whole lot easier when it comes to these. Well, that fell off. When it comes to these carburetors. Might be, nope, that's just something with the molding. But okay, so here's the choke. That looks like it's working okay. So that's good. Doesn't look super dirty, which is also good. Hopefully there wasn't too much gas in it when it was just left. So I will get the top and the bottom off and we'll see how we look. Nice and clean, nice and happy. Gasket looks like it's in good shape. Be careful with it though. Nice. That slides very smoothly, so that's good. Nice and clean, not too bad. Maybe a little bit of discoloration, but not terrible. I do see a little bit of gunk down there. Now my favorite part, the floats and everything else. Not terribly tight. Not necessarily a bad thing. At least they're not all galled up. So that's good. Sometimes taking these off, I have a terrible time. Oh, well, came off nice and easy. Hopefully we can save the gasket. Gasket looks decent. I know you should probably replace these, but I always seem to forget until the last minute. A little bit of gas residue, nothing terrible. It'll come out with carb cleaner, okay. Set that off to the side. Carbs don't look terrible. I think the one jet down here, oh no, that's correct, that's correct. About to lose the pin. All right, I might need to read up on this a little bit to make sure I'm not messing up any of the, figure out how to take this guy off so I can get these guys out, and we'll go from there. Okay, got it all apart. That wasn't too terrible. There are a couple of YouTube videos, ironically, online that go over how to take everything out. Just be very careful you don't scratch anything. I will say the idle jet, of course, is clogged. So it's always a good thing to take these apart. I don't know how well we're going to be able to see this, but you cannot see down the main bore of the idle jet. So I'm going to go off camera, clean all this back up, and then I'll bring you back along for the reassembly. I just don't want to have chemicals flying all over the place with my camera. So I'm going to get a mask on and some glasses, and I'll go take care of this outside. I lied. I forgot I had my action camera, so I'll bring you guys along for the ride for a little bit. But Pretty much just carb cleaner, compressed air, gloves, mask. Because I value my health, go ahead and hose this stuff down. Okay, so now we're all cleaned up. I'm going to go ahead, check the manual, and put it back together. Oh boy. Well, oops. Okay, check the float bowl height. This is a 3.0 number, so I should be setting it to 25 mils. Should be my float height. Right on. Perfect. Okay. Let's put this back on. Got everything back in. You know, I've never actually bought a rebuild kit. I've only ever just rebuilt them myself. So Probably wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for me to actually buy a rebuild kit, but that would be too much effort, I think. I don't see one. Sometimes there's a mark where how this is supposed to orient itself, like a little dimple or divot or something, but I don't see anything on the bottom, so and I have to figure out what the pilot screw should be set to. When I took it out, I got about 1 1/4 turns. So we're going to see what it should be, and then we will set it and forget it, hopefully. I don't know. We'll find out. Probably not, knowing my luck. All right, no spec, at least not an easy one to find. So I'm just going to set it right back where it was at 1 1/4 turn. After seating, and we'll adjust it on the bike if we have to. Okay, there's touching. So here's 1 1/4. So there you go. 1 carb down, 1 to go. Okay, so 1 carburetor down, 1 to go. I don't think you need to come around for the whole process again, but I'll do this a little bit quicker. So here we go. Oh, that's definitely got some varnish. Clogged. One and a quarter. Unfortunately, the carb cleaner is peeling a little bit of the paint off. It just tends to do that. Ask me how I know. Always fun. I guess when he painted this, he somehow got paint inside the carb. That's fun. Pretty good. Okay, carb 2 done. Okay, let's see if we can't install this bad boy back in here. Let's get some WD-40. Let's move this exhaust clamp, otherwise I'll never be able to get to it. All right, Honda, I'll give you that one. I will give you that one. Snug it up just a little bit. Okay. Let's get the other one. Before I speak too soon, let's get the other one on. I don't know how easy it's going to be to get this choke thingy back on. How does this go in here? Do we think? Also need to move this air filter. Now let's see if we can get the choke cable attached. All right, Honda, you win this time. Let's see if I can do this without spilling fuel everywhere. The answer is no. Oh God, oh God. Fuel everywhere. Fuel on my hands. Fuel on my seat. Such a dumb design. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. What kind of moron? Well, I got the carbs back on. I reinstalled the gas tank with this absolutely moronic leveling hose that balances the fuel from the left baffle and the right baffle. Terrible design. If you have any fuel in the gas tank, it basically just pours out all over the place. But long story short, right as I was going to get ready to add gas to the gas tank, took a peek inside and just a ton of rust. So I'll show a picture and some video here in just a second, but I mean, it looks terrible. So I'm gonna try a mix of things. I'm gonna see if I can't Maybe use some ball bearings. I know sometimes people use ice cubes. I'll probably try some Evapo Rust or some vinegar or something like that, but I've never done this before. I've certainly, de-rusted and scaled parts, but something internal like this where it's a gas tank, I don't really know what to do there, so I'm just gonna turn to YouTube and see what I can find and give it a shot. Let's see if I can't mess this up. You can see there's some rust floating around in there. Okay, well, I rinsed it out. I'm going to put 16 ball bearings in, shake it around for a little bit, and see if that can get any of the loose stuff off. So 16, I've got 16 in there. I cannot lose those 16. Okay, so it's been a couple days and I tried the shaking technique with the ball bearings. Couldn't really get all that much rust off. I think there was just way too much. So I put in some of that Metal Rescue rust stuff in there for a little bit. I didn't have really enough to coat the entire inside of the tank. So what I did instead was I went out and bought just white vinegar and poured that in basically until the tank was full. I've been letting it sit for close to 2 days. I'm going to dump that out, and then I've got a mixture of baking soda and water to hopefully neutralize so that I don't flash rust. And then once I've got everything out and I do a rinse or two, I'm going to throw in some gas and Marvel's Mystery Oil, and hopefully that helps coat the inside of the tank and prevents flash rusting. So that being said, I'm going to pop this open, dump everything out, take a quick look inside, and then start the rinsing process. Well, that is a lot of flaky rust. All right, let's get my camera in there, see how it looks. It's definitely better. But it probably wouldn't hurt to soak some more. It absolutely is better, but definitely still some rust floating around. So yeah, I'll try and splice in right here a before and after. You can look at what it was looking like and now what it looks like, and it's, like I said, definitely a lot better, but it probably needs some more soaking time and maybe even some agitation if I can get. Some people have said metal chains are better to do this with than ball bearings, just because it's easier to get it out. So maybe I'll give that a shot. Just have to find a chain. My camera got dirty. See if I can, if this stuff wipes off, what this is all like. Oh my, yeah. Okay, well, let's still do the baking soda and water rinse because it probably needs that. got some of my shoes. All right, so another day with vinegar to kind of loosen up that last bit of remaining rust, and I'll show a couple videos or screenshots here. I was able to slosh it around some, get some of that loose stuff off, take it over to the hose, rinse it out as best as I could, get as much of that vinegar out as possible, and then did a rinse with baking soda and water to neutralize whatever vinegar was left. Like I said, I then took gasoline and maybe half of a quart of Marvel Mystery Oil, coated the entire inside of this thing, hopefully to prevent flash rusting. I don't think that this needs like a tank coating on the inside. I've heard very mixed things on whether or not those work very well. If you can get it into all the crevices, if it traps moisture, just a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't want to deal with. And while I was sloshing everything around, all of the balls finally came out, so that's great. But I'm pretty much just gonna drain what's left in this tank. I'm not going to air blow it dry because I don't want any more flash rusting or risk of flash rusting. And then I'm pretty much just going to install it right back on the tank. I got a new petcock, so that will hopefully help with some of the leaks that I saw, as well as this thing was just covered in rust and I didn't feel like rebuilding it for $16. So I figured that was probably a worthwhile investment, but we'll go ahead and get this thing drained back on the bike. This looks like a murder scene over here. All the splotches of dried, rusty water and everything. Oh yeah, that looks pretty good. Pretty good. And luckily the mixture of gasoline and Marvel Mystery Oil won't really hurt the carburetors or the gas tank, or the engine really for that matter. What's it called? The amount that's left in there is really pretty insignificant. So whatever is left probably won't cause any issues, but I'm just gonna take this petcock off, get all the remainder out, and we should be good to go. All right, sweet. Ready to rock and roll. Okay. New petcock is on, nice and pretty, and I'm gonna go ahead and reinstall this tank. I think I actually need to install this hose first. Okay, now I can install the tank with that stupid divider hose. I was reading online, some people complain that this hose is a mechanic's worst nightmare because unless you drain the tank, you pretty much are just dripping fuel all over the place, which is no good. So I do not recommend. 0 out of 10. As you could see from my earlier clip, just go ahead and drain the tank and save yourself a whole lot of headache. And if you can, you probably want to replace this hose with a longer one so you can get it a little bit farther up off the bike, and that'll be much, much better. I think we're good. Okay, let's just make sure those are tight. And we'll look into hooking up our fuel lines. And then honestly, I think we add some gas and we give it a shot. I don't remember if I mentioned yet, but I got my new battery installed, which was absolutely necessary. I've had the other battery on the trickle charger for a couple days now. It's just not holding a charge. It's sitting at something like, I don't know, 10 volts or 9 volts. So one of the cells is probably dead, even though it's taking about 400 mils. It's been charging for 2 days and no drop in current, so it's just not happy. But it is what it is. Make sure that that lines up right, which it does. And let's get the fuel lines on. I got new fuel lines and new fuel filters, which is great. So we'll go ahead and attach those, throw some fuel in, and see if this sucker kickstarts. Actually, that's a lie. I'm not going to kickstart this thing. We're going to use the electronic starter because I'm not crazy. Okay, fuel line, filters. Let's get this done. New filters, new fuel clips. This has a direction on it, I believe, for fuel direction. Does that look about right? Yeah. So we'll just probably put it somewhere like this, just to keep it out of the way, because I don't think if I put it here, will that give me enough room? I guess I could make it as long as I need it to be. We'll put it roughly in the same spot, so we'll go right around there. And they gave me these really nice fuel clips, which I actually don't have many of, so that's very handy to have. Okay, here's the rest of the hose. Here we go. Okay. Let's see if I can get that up there a little better. Actually, I'm going to take that one off so I can get to the one behind it. This must be some special hose that doesn't like coming off. Do kind of wish this tubing was black, but whatever, it's fine. Nope, there it is. Perfect. Okay, let's get that over there. You can always make it shorter. And you can always lose your clip. There you are. You stinker. Get up there. Awesome. Okay. Okay, tank is back on. Fuel lines are hooked up. Battery is all charged and ready to go. So it's time to add some gas, give it a shot. And I guess, this is the official factory key, by the way. I guess you could ask, what could possibly go wrong? And there are a lot of things, which is why I'm not going to add too much gasoline to the tank. Just enough to get it going, because I have a sneaking suspicion that I'm going to need to pull this gas tank back off. So we will add enough to get us over kind of the reserve spot. How much I got in there? Yeah, it should be good. Because this time, if I have to take the tank off, I'm going to use my siphon because I don't feel like draining gas all over the place. So that's good. Let's put this in reserve. I see some fuel flowing down, which is great, meaning I don't have a really terrible leak anywhere. We will grab the key, throw this in the wrong direction, put it in run. I don't know, I think this is choke. We're in neutral. We are in the run position. Let's crank a couple times, see what happens. Promising. let's maybe kick the choke lever down. It's definitely the choke. Okay, let's turn this puppy around, put the garage door up a little bit, get a fan going to get the fumes out, and let's see if we can dial this in. Okay, let's try again. I probably messed with the idle screws. Gas tank leak. Okay, so I don't know how well that came across in the video when I was installing it, but the gas tank actually has a leak down on the lower, I think it's the right side. If you look, hold on a second. Okay, if you look down in this corner right here, just on this side, a little bit of fuel can leak out past some small seam break. I'm not exactly sure, but I had to sand an unfortunate amount, or at least peel back the paint on the back side to see what was going on. It actually looks like there's a couple spots. Maybe a seal broke, I don't know, but for sure I'm leaking out of there. It doesn't look like there's been any other fuel leaking down here, which is good, but what I'm gonna, sorry if you hear a ton of rain, by the way, it's storming out, but I was thinking about using just like gas tank putty to seal that up, but I don't think it's gonna be that good of a seal. So what I'm gonna do instead is try and tack weld it with my welder. I really wish I had a TIG welder for an instance like this, but unfortunately all I have is my flux core welder. I looked into getting a TIG core welder, and I think the main cost that would really aggravate me would be the tank and the gas, because I think the tank is something like 130 bucks, and then to fill it up is another 50. And the welder that I would look at is probably only 150 bucks, so it'd cost me about 300 bucks all in. So I'm gonna see if the flux core welder can repair this up, and if not, I will just have to look into something else. So I'm gonna get this set up and see how I do. Okay, I've got the gas tank rigged up and washed it out with some water to get any of the fumes inside out. I covered it with this welding blanket just to hopefully put it to sleep so that I can sneak up on it and it won't know what's going on. But actually I put it on there hopefully to help if any sparks get loose. It doesn't damage what I have left of the paint. But I'm gonna get masked up, move the camera around, do some other prep work, and then hopefully I can weld this up without too much of an issue. So I'll give it a shot. Well, I messed that paint up pretty good. Okay, so I did have some good heat penetration into the back. So let's get some compressed air over here and some soap suds and see if, hopefully, less is more, right? I don't want to do so much welding that I risk blowing through from one side to the other. Hopefully I didn't do any of that. So let's see. Nope. Nope, 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 nope. All right, let's sand that down a little bit and try again. All right, let's give it a shot. I don't have the highest hopes, but we will see. Let's see. All right, so either I fixed it and it's great, or there's another hole somewhere else. Your guess is as good as mine, but I think at least this spot seems to be holding pressure, which is good. So I'll clean it up a little bit. I probably won't paint it in this video just because I think it's going to be a pain in the butt trying to find this paint color specifically. If anyone knows what this paint color is called, some people call it light ruby red. I think there's like fire truck red or something as well, but this wasn't on the standard list of Honda paint colors. So if you know anything, let me know. Otherwise, I think I'm good to go here. Okay, so gas tank is back on. I've got all my lines connected. I did actually wind up having some red paint that was very, very close. Honestly, from a foot away, you really can't tell unless you're up close, really trying to see what's going on. So I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. If someone at some point wants to really restore this thing, they probably could get a matching color paint, but I think it kind of tells a story of how old of the bike it is, which is really nice, and also couple that with the fact that I didn't want to keep welding and grinding and welding and grinding because I was afraid I was going to blow through the steel. Now again, this is a 52-year-old motorcycle, 52-year-old steel. I'm not 100% sure with the condition of it, and especially at corners, I don't like to weld too much just because of the risk of blowing through. So let's add some gasoline. I'll add it to this far side. And number one, we'll see if it leaks, which I really, really hope it doesn't. And number two, we'll make sure that we can still start. Let that sit for a little bit. Okay, I've had it sitting gas in the tank now about half an hour. I don't see any leaks, which is good. So I'm going to give it a shot. Carbs are in reserve. Put it on. Choke, I think, is this. Let's give it a shot. All right, I think that ran pretty darn well. I've got some other things that I can add onto the side of the bike, little side covers that look pretty cool. I'm not gonna touch up the paint on those just because, again, I think some of that patina is pretty good. And then I will let this run for a little while longer. That way I can get the oil up to temp and then change the oil filter. But past that, I really think it's pretty much done. So let's wrap things up. Okay, so that's cooled off a little bit. I'm still not wild about the oil coming out directly on top of the exhaust pipe. So I actually saw Watch Wes work use one of these. It's called Form a Funnel. You can kind of just bend it into whatever shape you need it to be. So I'm gonna stick this over the exhaust pipe, kind of angle that down a little bit, make it go down here into the pan, and then we'll go ahead and loosen this guy up. And when you're upside down and looking down at the bolt, go backwards. So I want to go right to loosen. We should get some oil coming out. And I would much rather clean this guy than oil off of the exhaust pipes. So I feel like that's not a bad idea. There we go. And that will keep that, for the most part, off the exhaust. So I would say that's a pretty worthwhile investment. And now I need to find a paper towel. Not a whole lot of filament in there, so that's good. Maybe a little bit of sheen. Oh, there came a piece of something. I don't know what that was, but all right, we'll open this up. We will let that drain for a little while. Okay, in the meantime, while that drains, we'll go ahead and get the oil filter cover off. Really, really recommend, if you work on Japanese bikes, get a Japanese Phillips screwdriver. Much less prone to stripping those screws, especially on carburetors. Carburetor screws are the absolute worst offender of that, mainly because it's usually aluminum screws or like a weak soft metal screw, and it just doesn't hold up. It galls. Okay, let's get a very thin flathead screwdriver, and let's very carefully try and work this off without damaging the paint or anything. Let's see if there's a recess, and there is. It's back and forth. A little damage, but oh, that smells awful. Okay, we've got a circle retaining clip. Let's go ahead and get that out. Okay. Now that should come out. Okay. Oh my. That's got a ton of metal in it. That looks pretty bad, to be honest. I'm getting a lot of sheen also coming out of here. All right, let me take a look at the manual. Okay, so after a little more research, interestingly, there actually is not what you would consider a typical oil filter in here. It's like a centrifugal, I guess you would say, solid oil filter. So all these particulates and things that I'm seeing in here are just trapped by way of centrifugal force going around. So what I'm going to do is shove a paper towel kind of into this crevice right here, just so that I don't accidentally, as I'm cleaning this and pulling this out, I don't scoop anything into the crank case down here. And then I will just work on cleaning that out. It doesn't look good. Looks like bearing material or something. But do you really think I'm going to do another full engine rebuild? Probably not. Here's the O-ring. I'll take that out and clean that off. It's looking pretty rough. Oh my, here's another O-ring. Take that out. That looks pretty bad. All right, well, I've pretty much got that as clean as I'm going to get it. So, unfortunately, I don't really know what much else to do besides doing a full engine rebuild on it. I mean, there's still a little bit of stuff in there, but it'll just have to get caught by this centrifugal filter thing. So I'll go ahead and, I guess, start putting this back together. Clean off some of these O-rings. You know, I've never actually bought, except for the Nighthawk, like a carburetor rebuild kit or a O-ring rebuild kit for some of these things. And one of these times you think I probably would. I mean, look at my finger here. That's just bad. But one of these times you would think that I would. Is that how this goes? Don't believe that matters. It just needs to line up with those fins. Like that. So let's just grab a big old socket and a hammer. Give it a good old tappy tap. Probably cry a little bit. Get the C-clip. Okay, we look good. Doesn't look like it has any special way that it goes. I know that went down there at the bottom. Grab a paper towel. Well, I'm not super proud of it, but I don't really have the time or want to do a full engine rebuild on this. So I'm just gonna hope that that's all clutch material and that it's good that the oil filter call it that. But I think you and I both know that that's not clutch material. So that sucks, but not really sure what else to do about it for now. That's the oil filter cleaned out. All right, go ahead and add some oil. I believe for a full oil change it's about 2 quarts. I'm just using 10W40 because either 10W40 or 10W30 is recommended, and this is what Walmart had. So I'm just gonna go with that. I know it's gonna take at least 1 quart, so we'll go ahead and add that. That oil smelled really bad before, so my guess is haven't changed the oil in quite a while and it sat for some time and pretty much just disintegrated some of the clutch material inside is what I'm hoping, and it's not actually all the crankshaft bearings falling apart. Okay, so like I said, my microphone died at this point and I didn't catch it, so I'm adding this audio in post. Now these 2 side covers that I'm showing you here are like an add-on piece. I'm not sure if this was stock with the bike, but they are from American Historic Motorcycle Association with a racing badge on the side. Now, I didn't want to scrape all the paint off and repaint this, number 1, because again, I don't have the exact paint color, but number 2, I think it keeps it more true to the bike's history, showing, where it came from and trying my best to not mess with it as much as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and just throw these back on. There's just a spacer back behind them, and they just screw right on. They kind of cover the battery and give it some flair there in the back to add some more color. I think it makes it look really cool. So throwing these on and on to the next thing. So my microphone is still dead at this point, but I'm getting ready to put the seat on, which is the last part of the bike that I need to put on. And I noticed that the thread insert for that part has just sheared and fallen off. And by some miracle, I found it within the frame rail along the side by that seat. I was able to pull it back out. I tried to JB weld it in place, but unfortunately it just wouldn't stick. It couldn't hold. I left it for a couple hours and basically just gave up with it. So I then said, fine, I guess I'm going to have to pull the welder back out. So sorry for any flashing lights here, but I was able to successfully tack this guy in place and scraped it back down, painted it a little bit so that we wouldn't rust or do anything else crazy. I'm also sorry. It would appear that for this entire shot, the Nighthawk exhaust pipe is in focus instead of the stuff that actually matters. So really hope you guys can appreciate that in the background. I know it's the subject of focus there, but after we get that all put in and screw that seat in, we are pretty much done with everything that needed to get done with the bike. Well, I would say that about wraps it up for the 72 CB350. I really enjoyed working on this bike, and hopefully you guys stuck around to the end. And if you did enjoy this video, maybe drop me a like or subscribe. It helps the channel grow. I really appreciate it. Overall, I enjoyed working on the bike. It did give me a couple headaches though with that gas tank, with the rust and the welding and needing to do that. So that extended things out a couple weeks. Actually, over the course of recording this video, my buddy's daughter was born, so big congrats to you guys, and looking forward to meeting her in the future. And hopefully the money that we get out of this over the course of 18 years grows to something worthwhile for your college fund. So really looking forward to seeing that and checking back in on this video in 18 years if YouTube is still a thing, who knows. But definitely learned a couple things from this bike, new things to put in my back pocket. Who knows what I'll be working on next, so stick around guys, and I will see you in the next video.